brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Broadcasting from coast to coast,
city to city, coast to coast.
It's time for the Ryan Hickey Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If it's happening in sports, it's being talked about right here. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Monday morning. Welcome into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Ryan Hickey Show with you here, live from the great outdoors. We're really not in the woods, but just more in my backyard. We'll get to that in a second here. But welcome into the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We are here every Monday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, so welcome on in. I always kind of talk about the show, and I always kind of mention the weather. Living in the Northeast, as you know, it is a very, very short summer at times. So you always got to embrace the good weather whenever it is here. And that is what we are doing today. We are doing the show on remote, live from my backyard. In part because if you remember a few weeks ago, we were up in the attic when the first phase of our floors getting done was happening. Phase 2 is today. So if you walk inside, you will hear a ton of noise. So I figured, you know what, let's go to the great outdoors. Peace and quiet, where instead of you hear sanding machines, you hear birds chirping in the background. Isn't that what you want to hear? So we are here outside for the next 2 hours until we are back in our main studios on Thursday. But if you can bear with us here for the next 2 hours, we will get through this together and hopefully have some fun on this Monday morning. We appreciate, as we always do, when you join us here and make your week starting with us on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As a reminder, we're coming to you live from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios, where there's great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners. Check out Big Italy Pizzeria in person in Medford, Joe's Pizzeria in Bayshore, online at bigitalypizza.com. We appreciate you listening wherever you are, because we are all over the digital platform, if you will. Facebook, we're live at Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Twitter, we are live, WWSRN_radio, or at Ryan Hickey Show is the official show handle if you want to follow at Ryan Hickey Show. You can also catch a live show there as well. We're on YouTube Live, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Make sure you subscribe and check us out there. And our app, WWSRN for iPhone, Worldwide Sports Radio Network for Android. A lot to get into here on a very busy sports weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed the gorgeous weekend that it was. Felt like summer here in the Northeast. Saturday, 80. Sunday, 85. My parents even went to the beach yesterday. Happy for them, lucky for them, getting the summer started off on the right note. But man, was it a jam-packed, busy, loaded sports weekend here towards the end of May. We will get into Phil Mickelson in a second. He makes history winning the PGA Championship, the oldest man to ever win a major tournament at 50 years old. The NBA playoffs are underway. Who should have an overreaction to the first game of the series? Should there be some warranted concern for what we saw on Saturday and Sunday? We'll do that at 10 a.m. Eastern. Pro Football Focus also put out their list of the top 32 quarterbacks heading to the 2021 season. We'll focus on the top 10, who's ranked too high, who's ranked too low. We'll break that down. Dan Favale, speaking of the NBA playoffs going down this week, he will join us at 10:20 Eastern. He from Bleacher Report, breaking down the NBA. He does a great job with their coverage. We will discuss which teams, after one game, should be concerned. Who, okay, calm down, no big deal. Just one game will bounce back and win their series handle. We'll get into that again at 10:20 Eastern. But we want to start with the biggest sports story yesterday, the biggest sports story of the weekend, and one of the most improbable sports stories we will see in 2021, I should say, and that is Phil Mickelson winning the PGA Championship yesterday. Congratulations to you, Phil. An awesome accomplishment. And this is kind of the angle I want to attack here with Phil winning. It's said a lot, and I think it's correctly said, sports is a microcosm of society, right? Growing up, whether you played high school sports, little league sports, intramural sports, whatever, however level you played sports at some point in your life, younger or older, it's always kind of said that sports is a great life lesson, right? Teaches you how to overcome adversity, fight through things, work as a team to accomplish a common goal. I think a lot of times when you hear those cliches about life mirroring sports or sports being a great learning experience for life, teaching you a lot, I think a lot of those are true. And kind of seeing the path Phil's taken here in his career recently, seeing what he was able to overcome yesterday, that is the perfect example of really what we should strive for in life. What Phil was able to accomplish yesterday at Kiawah Island really highlights and encapsulates not only his career, because there was plenty of ups and plenty of downs, not just yesterday, but throughout Phil's career, but also highlights in life. Plenty of downs we will all face. The most important thing is to never give up. I understand it's corny, and my apologies here, but it's true. But let's look, right? Phil made history yesterday. Again, like we just said before, the oldest player to ever win a major championship. 50 years old, going to turn 51 next week. And also, next month, Also, with that win, he now has 6 career major victories, 2 at the PGA Championship, 3 Masters, and 1 Open Championship. He has now tied Nick Faldo, Lee Trevino with those 6 major championships. But I want to go back to a few weeks ago. I want to go back to 2 weeks ago, actually, when Phil put out a tweet. Because it was a very innocuous tweet, I think a very obvious tweet, but now to me it speaks volumes 2 weeks later when you were able to see what he accomplished. So on May 11th, so 2 weeks from tomorrow, Phil tweeted this, quote, "I failed many times in my life and career because of this, I've learned a lot. Instead of feeling defeated countless times, I've used it as fuel to drive me to work harder. So today, join me in accepting our failures. Let's use them as motivation for us to work even harder." So there's Phil openly admitting, hey, my career has basically not gone as planned in the last few years. I have failed a ton. But instead of maybe hiding from the failure, instead of trying to push it to the side, brush it under the rug, ignore it, let's face it. Let's face our failures and use that to make us better. And I wanted to highlight that because Phil basically openly admitting and discussing his failures of the past few years. As we know, we've seen it, we watched it. But here's someone being so open about it. It's refreshing, it's candid. And that openness and that failure is a large part, really the main part, of why this weekend at Kiawah Island was so special. It's because of how low Phil was entering this weekend, which makes him winning his 6th major, making history, and becoming the oldest man to ever win a major, that much more special, that much more raucous. And you couldn't tell, even with the crowd reaction, it made it that much more special. So let's look at some stats here, because it is crazy what Phil was able to accomplish this weekend. So Phil came into this weekend at the PGA Championship. He was the 115th ranked golfer in the world golf rankings. Great stat here by our pals at ESPN Stats and Info. Phil was the lowest player in the world golf rankings to win a major since Shawn McKeel who was ranked 169th, won the PGA Championship back in 2003. Think about that. Phil was that low, ranked 115th in the world golf rankings, almost 2 decades since someone that low has won a major tournament. Phil was able to do that. But part of the reason why this is so special, so monumental in the win this past weekend was not just the history, but it was also just recent success, or really lack thereof. Let's look at Phil's last 17 tournaments. Do you know how many finishes he's had in the top 20? Not wins, not second place, not top 10, not top 5. How many top 20 finishes Phil has had in his last 17 tournaments? I'll give you a hint. The same as me and you. 0. 0. So he inspired 0 faith, no confidence that he could even pull off a feat like this in a normal tournament, let alone a major tournament. The last championship, the last major victory Phil had, got to go back to 2013 at the Open Championship 8 years ago. And it was just 2 years, or over 2 years, I should say, since he last won a tournament on the PGA Tour, which was the 2019 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So Phil came into this weekend ranked 115th in the world's golf rankings, hasn't had a top 20 finish in his last 17 starts. Last major came 8 years ago, and it's been over 2 years. 2 years since he won a tournament. But he was able to persevere, and through those downs, was able to come out on the other side and put 4 good days of golf together. And even Sunday, even just yesterday, if you zoom in, and if you maybe missed Thursday and Friday and caught a tiny bit of Phil on Saturday, but you really tuned in a lot yesterday. Yesterday was your main day of watching Phil go down and win the PGA Championship. You saw Sunday's round alone encapsulate really his entire career. Because as we know, Phil's had plenty of success, plenty of failure. Not just, missing cuts, coming in second, choking some leads, winning, not winning as many major tournaments as maybe he should have. And yesterday's round just encapsulated his entire career and really the path of life. When you look at all the ups and downs we have to face on a daily basis, Phil went through that just on Sunday alone. He had 5 birdies on the final round, on Sunday yesterday. He also had 6 bogeys. Up and down, up and down. The first hole alone, if you just settled in to watch Phil, he tees off at 2:30. You sit on the couch, maybe a nice ice-cold beer, some chips, nice sandwich. It's a gorgeous day yesterday. Maybe you're sitting inside getting ready to watch Phil. You're not even in your chair yet. Phil goes from 1 up to 1 down. He bogeys the first hole. Brooks Koepka birdies the first hole, and it's like, oh my goodness, here we go. Here we go. We are not even, you are barely sitting down. Phil is barely breaking a sweat. And he already goes from up 1 to down 1 in the blink of an eye. But to Phil's credit again, for all of the downfalls, all of the pitfalls he has faced in his career, he rose above. Had that tremendous hole-out birdie on hole 5 of Vern Lundquist there. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gracious. And even all day, even in some of the holes he was making par on, he's spraying a few drives. His approach shots are a little long on the green, rolling off the back of the green, having to give himself some tough chips, some tough lies. And Phil stayed steady throughout the entire round. Never folded, persevered, embraced his failures that he tweeted about 2 weeks ago, and was able to overcome them on his way to his 6th major championship. And now, for all the history that he made even more. First player in PGA Tour history to win a tournament 30 years apart. Won back in 1991. Now he wins in 2021. And even to make it more impressive, to even make it more improbable, when you look at the course itself, the Ocean Course on Kiawah Island. You ready for this little history? The Ocean Course at Kiawah Island yesterday was the longest course ever at a major. The longest course ever. Which again, you would think doesn't play into Phil's strengths. When you look at bomb hitters, when you look at long ball hitters like Bryson DeChambeau hits the ball a ton. Brooks Koepka, even with his bum knee, hits the ball 300 with ease. Phil was hanging with the big boys. He was hanging tough and was able to persevere at a course that in theory should favor guys like Brooks and Bryson for how long they hit the ball. And instead, it's the old guy. It's Phil Mickelson with the longest drive of the week. Coming down the stretch on 16 yesterday, Brooks hits a beautiful drive, trying to apply some pressure. I believe it was 361. And here comes Phil, right back, 366 drive. Now, wind aided, still 366. The longest drive for any golfer at any point during the weekend. Or during the week, I should say. The longest drive of the entire tournament came from Phil Mickelson on hole 16 on Sunday, trying to close out his first major tournament in 8 years. Improbable. Incredible. And the scene there on 18, little chaotic. Can't lie, you heard Phil. You heard Jim Nantz talking about, what's going to happen when he puts the putt in. We weren't sure if there's going to be a bum rush to the green. But just the fan reaction, the joy, not just on Sunday, not just on 18, really the entire weekend. When fans started really noticing, hey, Phil's in this. Phil could actually do this. It was the most pro one golfer crowd I have heard since Tiger Woods. Usually Tiger's the guy where everyone is making the loud roars, everyone is following, everyone is cheering on his every move. Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. You rarely hear a roar so loud, so passionate. That's not a Tiger roar. But really, all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday especially, it only grew louder. And this is the most pro one player, and this was Phil this weekend, that I've heard in a long time. And he deserves all of it. Because again, Phil did something that we should all strive for. He rose from the darkest depths of his career to reach the mountaintop one last time. And who knows, maybe he could do it again. Maybe this is the confidence he needs to kind of unlock his play. Maybe he can win another major or two. But even if he doesn't, what he was able to accomplish this weekend, winning another major tournament, really when his career was left for dead and gone. I mean, there were some articles, and I thought this was perfectly put. Phil, the personality, has become a bigger attraction, a bigger story, a bigger talking point than Phil, the golfer, right? His game is not what we talk about. There's a ton of missed cuts, ton of finishing 50th and 60th and 70th, and he's not even near any of the leaders. It was more about Phil's personality on social media. Talk about his cast. Talk about just kind of the way he's been. He's become more open to the fans, to the media. And that's what kind of we talked about and liked about Phil more recently than his actual play. But Phil's journey, again, facing the darkest depths, the lows of the lows, to rise above that and, again, win another major title is something we should all strive for. So as corny as it sounds, it's true. Sports is a microcosm of life. Sports does reflect society. And it inspires you in ways that we all should strive for. And that's what happened with Phil over this weekend. It shows you, if you put your mind to it, don't give up. It's the most important thing. Keep pushing. Phil did it, and congratulations to you, Phil. What an improbable victory, and what an awesome, awesome sight. That was cool. That was so, so cool. As a Phil fan, but also doubted myself, I did not think this was possible. Credit to you, Phil. That was these last 3 days of golf, especially when he was kind of at the top after 36, after 54, and after 72, was awesome for him, awesome for golf. So, love to hear your Phil thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. At Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. When we come back, Phil wasn't the only thing going on this weekend. A very busy and jam-packed sports week. We also had a ton of NBA playoffs. There's one big surprise that I had, one big takeaway from the NBA playoffs that I thought is very interesting. I want to kind of get into next. It is the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All we need is somebody to lean on.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on this gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous Monday morning right here. It's so nice, we figured, what the hell? We'll sit outside. We will do the show outside. Now, I can't lie. I am playing a little hurt right now. A lot of pollen in the air, a lot of pollen on the ground. I don't know if you can even tell on the stream. Some pollen falling on the table here. So the nose is getting a little stuffy. Throat a little scratchy. But we're going to power through for you guys. So we are here until 11 a.m. Eastern. So on this beautiful Monday morning, Phil Mickelson makes history. Congratulations to you, Phil. Guy goes to the lowest of the lows, where his golf game was more of an afterthought at this point than really his personality. He perseveres to become the oldest champion ever to win a major at 50 years old. Congratulations to you, Phil. That was an awesome, awesome sight we saw yesterday, all week. Something most people, including myself, had no shot, no thought of that ever happening again. And it did similar, Now, not on the same level, but similar to Tiger winning the Masters. I thought his career was done. We were wasting our time talking, is Tiger ever going to win a major again? We didn't really have that conversation with Phil. I think that was how much of an afterthought it was. Congratulations to you, Phil. Defying Father Time, slaying the dragon, and getting your 6th major championship. And that was awesome. That was awesome. Wasn't the only thing, though, that was going on this weekend. A lot of NBA basketball. The opening weekend of the NBA playoffs started. And honestly, there was one big surprise, one entire surprise I could take away from the entire weekend. And that was, we've been told for a while, playoff experience matters, and I buy into it. I do. The game is so different in the postseason compared to the regular season, right? The preparations are so much more intense. Coaching becomes that much more important, that much more imperative. It's all about adjustments. Your rotations get shorter. Scoring becomes harder. Look at the scores for this weekend compared to a normal NBA game in the regular season. Defense becomes more important and more passionate, if you will. Like more teams try on defense than they would in the regular season. So it's so much different. The game is so much different. It's so much harder in the postseason than it is in the regular season that I bought into the fact that, hey, playoff experience matters. Those teams that have lived through it, good or bad, but know what to expect, especially early on in this series. Especially early on, before teams get comfortable, before teams figure out kind of what the playoffs are all about, the true differences between the postseason and the regular season, you would have thought, especially game 1s, game 2s, those teams with more playoff experiences would have an advantage. But instead, guess what the biggest surprise for me of the opening weekend was in the NBA? No playoff experience? No problem. Plenty of teams we saw this weekend win opening games without being there before. That's what made this weekend so impressive for me for a few teams, because they didn't have the taste of the moment, and they said, oh, no problem. We'll go out here and just play basketball. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns are a team that, despite being the 2 seed, or this might be in the history of the NBA, one of the few, if only times, a 2 seed nationally is being doubted against the 7 seed. But that's what happens when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis sitting there at the 7. I picked against the Suns. I thought this was a great matchup for the Lakers. And even though they're banged up, even though they're trying to work back into their playoff form, I thought this was a great opening round matchup for the Lakers. They would take care of business. And instead, the Phoenix Suns, in DeAndre Ayton's first playoff game, in Devin Booker's first playoff game, in Mikal Bridges' first playoff game, they look like they were 10-year vets. Like they were playoff regulars. Devin Booker, total stud yesterday. 34 points, 50% for the field. Knocked down 13 of his 26 shots. He was the catalyst of the offense. And not only is that impressive, just because, again, it's his first postseason game ever. When you're going against Anthony Davis, when you're going against LeBron James and the Lakers. He also did so with Chris Paul getting hurt. He basically now, most of the shooting guard for the season, comes in, assumes the point guard role, and keeps the offense moving. He was a catalyst on Sunday. DeAndre Ayton, I mean, let's call it for what it is, the best big man on the floor on Sunday. He played a hell of a lot better than Anthony Davis. Montrezl Harrell, don't even think about it. Andre Drummond, get out of here. Ayton was the best big man on the floor Sunday, something I was not expecting. A guy, honestly, in Ayton that I figured would struggle the most. Devin Booker will get his points. He's been in some big moments before. I figured the guy to kind of watch that would really get worked in the playoffs would be DeAndre Ayton. So far, game 1, he was phenomenal. 21 points, 16 rebounds. Guy was collecting everything. And not only that, on the offensive end, right, scoring 21 points, pulling down 16 total rebounds, he also, on the defensive end, held Anthony Davis to just 5 of 16 shooting. Was able to lock down AD, the best player on the court right now with LeBron's injury. Able to slow him down, and it really was a big key to the Suns getting game 1. A victory I did not see them getting, to be honest. And again, this is all while Chris Paul gets hurt and was pretty much ineffective. Shooting-wise, he didn't even really bother shooting the ball too much once his shoulder injury occurred. Like I said, Devin Booker was a catalyst for the offense since that injury went down. So very, very impressive. Despite the Suns being super young, a playoff or lacking playoff experience, something that I personally thought would be a big detriment to them, especially going against a team like the Lakers. So far, just one game. Very, very impressed with their poise, with their aggressiveness and their lack of fear. Right away, credit to you, Phoenix Suns. Same with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, it's a little different because the Hawks and Knicks are both two teams that haven't been there before in a while, right, with very little playoff experience from the players that matter. But for the Hawks, you watched that game last night. MSG was rocking. That Garden was electric. And I'll be honest here, as a Knicks fan myself, I kind of got into the Knicks later on in life where I didn't grow up a basketball fan. So I don't, I was alive but don't remember the 99 finals run. I wasn't terribly into the Knicks when they had Melo and they went to the playoffs in 2012 and 2013. So kind of getting to the Knicks, really, I'll say the last 5 to 7, 8 years, really kind of a bad time to get, truly be watching a lot more games, truly get into the Knicks when they are pretty bad. But I will say, kind of now getting into them when they were down and terrible, and to hear that Garden last night filled up, raucous atmosphere in a playoff game was insane. That crowd was electric. And sitting on my couch, I had goosebumps. That was awesome. But credit to the Hawks. Again, both teams in the Knicks and Hawks are inexperienced. But the Hawks on the road in a chaotic environment, 15,000 fans for a season that you're used to. Cavernous arenas with either no fans or 4,000 or 5,000 fans. So sure, it's loud, but it is nothing like an almost sold-out Madison Square Garden. We have Trae Young making his playoff debut, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, excuse me. Boy, we'll get to Boyan in a second here. Bogdan Bogdanovic in his first playoff game. This Hawks team is very young, and they didn't flinch in the moment. I give them a lot of credit. Trae Young was incredible last night. 10 assists to go along with 32 points, including the game winner. Don't let him go right. The Knicks let him go right with just 0.9 seconds left to give the Hawks a 2-point lead that they ended up winning by. Bogdanovic himself hit a few big shots, including a big three with less than a minute to go. The crowd was loud. The crowd was chaotic. You could have folded in that moment when the Knicks are making shots towards the end. Very impressed with the poise the Hawks had to where even though both teams are inexperienced, you're on the road in a loud atmosphere. Hawks didn't flinch. Very impressive. How about the Memphis Grizzlies? Excuse me. What a performance they had. I understand there was no Donovan Mitchell for the Jazz yesterday. When you look at the Grizzlies themselves, second youngest team in all of the NBA, youngest team in the playoffs, and they were not intimidated at all. Look at their road just to get here. Last Sunday, you faced the Warriors in a game where the winner gets the 8 seed, bitch, get 2 chances to make the playoffs. Loser gets the 9, where you got to win 2 games in a row. Warriors win that one. Grizzlies go home, take a massive lead early on against the Spurs, blow that, come back, hold on, then go back to Golden State, where you lost just a few days ago, take on Steph Curry, where everyone, including yours truly here, thought, all right, Warriors will win, they'll get the 8th seed, and we'll get going here. They win in overtime impressively in Golden State, take that momentum to Game 1 in Utah, which, again, another raucous atmosphere, another near sold-out arena. And for the youngest team in the playoffs, they were not scared. They were not intimidated. They were the aggressors. Dylan Brooks, totally in the zone, especially early on. 31 points. Not only that, he was getting it done on the offensive side, playing great defense all night long. John Morant, 26 points. So many of those came in crunch time. 10 points in the fourth quarter. The Memphis Grizzlies never wavered. And again, they were up by double digits in the fourth quarter. They're up by 17 at one point. They're up by 12. They're up by 10. The Jazz are cutting it down, hitting threes. The Grizzlies never flinched, never wavered. And again, that's not easy to do when you have no playoff experience, when you're the youngest playoff team remaining, the second youngest team in all the NBA. That was very, very impressive by the Grizzlies. And even the Nets, finally here, right? The Memphis Grizzlies, no playoff experience, impressive win. Atlanta Hawks, same thing. No playoff experience and a raucous MSG, they still win. Phoenix Suns, going against a team that everyone thought was going to roll through them in the Lakers. No shot the Suns have a chance to take down the Lakers. A 2 seed. I got to look up the gambling odds. I am sure this is maybe the first and only time a 2 seed in the NBA playoffs in the first round of the playoffs is an underdog. But that was the case here, and the Suns, without playoff experience, with their 2 biggest stars, in DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, get the job done. And I will give credit here to this last team, the Brooklyn Nets. They obviously have a playoff experience and a ton of it. James Harden in the postseason every year. Kyrie Irving, when he's healthy, in the postseason every year. Kevin Durant, same thing. When he's healthy, postseason every year. So these guys are no strangers to the big moment, to playing playoff basketball. The impressive part, and I'll give them credit, and I'm including them here with teams like the Grizzlies, Hawks, and Suns, is because this is the first time that you had these guys playing together. The 9th game for the big three in KD, Kyrie, and Harden. The first game ever. We are the starting 5 that they rolled out there against the Celtics on Saturday night, being KD, Kyrie, James Harden, Joe Harris, Blake Griffin. First time ever these 5 players were playing together. And to their credit, after a rough, and I mean rough first start, in which the big three combined to shoot 11 of 32, the three of them combined for just 33 points in the first half, including going 0 for 11 from 3. They rebounded at halftime. Second half came out 15 of 26 from the field, 49 points combined for the 3 players. And again, they pulled away with an easy victory in the over the Celtics in a second half that they were impressive and played really well. But here's what I'll say the Nets and why I'm including them here is because, as you know, I have my doubts, and it's not even about the skill on the court. It's about the leadership, or in my mind, the lack thereof. I have my doubts that if things get rough, if things get tough, they don't have the leadership to persevere, to pull through like we saw with the Celtics in 08, like we saw with the Heat under LeBron James, like we saw with the Warriors under Stephen Clay. You need leadership, and that is, I feel like, an underrated aspect of championship teams that we don't give enough credit to, and I don't think the Nets have. To their credit, after just an awful first half. Again, I get it's the Celtics, so it's easier to come out and it's easier to kind of get things going here and defeat them, whether, maybe against, whether it's the Bucks or the Sixers led run. Still impressive that they didn't waver, they didn't panic, played their game and got it done. So even though these 3 guys individually have a ton of playoff experience, this is just their 9th game together, and the starting lineup the Nets rolled out there on Saturday night, first time these 5 players ever played together. So I do give them credit that, yeah, you have no playoff experience playing with these guys. You were still able, again, with a lesser opponent in the Celtics, still able to get it done. So I'm curious your thoughts. What was your biggest surprise from the NBA playoffs, from the opening weekend of the NBA playoffs? Love to hear your thoughts. Facebook Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. For me, it's the teams with the lack of playoff experience having success early on. We don't see teams without that playoff experience, especially early on in series, have success. We saw the Suns do it to the Lakers, look like a veteran team. The Grizzlies go into Utah. I get there's no Donovan Mitchell, but still, very impressive for the second youngest team in the NBA. Go on the road, game 1 of a playoff situation that they haven't experienced before, get the win. Hawks in a raucous, shaking, electrifying MSG. Have Trae Young, the best player, sink an incredible shot with just 0.9 seconds left. And even the Nets. I'm including the Nets in here. First time this starting 5 has ever played together. First time the big 3 has really played together in a playoff format in a game that actually matters. They were able to come together at halftime and get the job done. So for me, the biggest surprise of this weekend, of the opening weekend of the NBA playoffs, was teams with the lack of playoff experience having success early on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, Facebook Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter as well. Get your thoughts, tweet them in here. When we return, we'll do a little NFL here. Pro Football Focus last week put out the list of their top quarterbacks, basically ranked the top 32 quarterbacks heading into the 2021 season. We will break down the top 10. Which quarterbacks are ranked a little too high? Which quarterbacks are ranked a little too low? And two quarterbacks, easy for me to say, that I think are ranked perfectly where they are. I'll tell you who those guys are next when the Ryan Hickey Show returns right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no two investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk adverse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value and market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC. Annuity and insurance products offered through AXA Network LLC.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor, and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next-door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on this Monday morning. Top of the hour, 20 minutes from now, overreaction, warranted reaction for some of the action we saw over the NBA weekend. Dan Favale, Bleacher Report, talented NBA reporter, will join us 10:20 Eastern. But before that, we'll squeeze in some football here. We'll squeeze in some NFL football, right? Who doesn't love some good quarterback debates towards the end of May? Well, guess what? If that's what you're searching for, that's what you're looking for, we got you right here. Pro Football Focus last week put out their rankings of their top, well, really every quarterback, top 32 quarterbacks heading into the 2021 season. So I want to break down the top 10 because there are 4 quarterbacks I see that really deserve debate. 2 I think are perfectly placed that I think will cause some discussion. I think will cause some anger. I think they are perfectly placed. 1 quarterback is too high on the list. 1 is too low. So I'll give you the top 10 here. No surprise, they have Mitch Trubisky number 1. I'm just kidding. Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 ranked quarterback for Pro Football Focus heading into 2021. 2, 3, 4, 5, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Watson. Josh Allen at 6, Dak Prescott at 7, Lamar Jackson 8, Matt Ryan 9, Baker Mayfield 10. So Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Watson is your top 5, 6 through 10. Allen, Dak, Lamar, Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield. So let's start with the 2 quarterbacks that I think are perfectly placed for where they are. Number 2, Tom Brady to me is perfect. Perfect. he is worth being higher than Aaron Rodgers, currently the reigning MVP. To me, he is worth being ranked higher than Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. This is why. To me, he's going to be better than those guys in 2021, which is crazy to say for a guy that's going to be 44. We talked about Phil turning back the clock at 50 for a sport that golf is the most forgiving physically, where you can have the most success later on in your career. Football is the complete opposite, the complete antithesis of that, where you get worse with age, and that is a sport that runs you out of the league the soonest. Despite that, despite being 44 come week 1 of the 2021 NFL season, I think Tom Brady will be the second best quarterback in the NFL this year. Look at what he did last year. He threw 40 touchdowns last year, the second highest amount of his career. He threw for 4,633 yards last year in 2020, the third highest of any quarterback last year. And this is all in spite of the first 12 games of the year being a roller coaster, being up and down, right? We saw plenty of games where Tom Brady did not look good. Monday night against the Rams, woof, eek, he did not look good. Plenty of games and plenty of instances where Tom Brady could not get on the same page with his receivers, didn't look comfortable. I mean, both times they played the Saints to start the season, and that Sunday night game, I believe it was week 9, they got their doors blown off. So he threw for his second highest amount of touchdowns in his career, threw for the third most yards of any quarterback in 2020 last year, despite the fact that 3/4 of the year, 3/4 of the season, he was up and down. He was inconsistent. He was not playing Tom Brady football throughout the entire year. So heading into 2021, where in year number 2, he feels comfortable in the offense. He truly knows the offensive system. He knows the receivers that he's throwing the ball to. He is comfortable with the scheme and what he's being asked to do. This is a guy that thrives with familiarity, thrives when he's comfortable in the pocket, when he's comfortable to the receivers he's throwing to. He trusts the offense. Guess what? That all returns in 2021. The receivers, the offensive line, the running backs, the tight ends, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, the system. It all returns in 2021, and that means Tom Brady's only going to get better. He's going to be in the mix for MVP. Honestly, right now, on May 24th, I would make Tom Brady my MVP favorite. I really would. That's how good I think he's going to be in 2021. That's why I love PFF ranking him second. Physically, athletically, Aaron Rodgers is better. Russell Wilson is better. Deshaun Watson is better. Josh Allen is better. When you look at what Tom Brady does really well, what he has returning, everything in place from when they won the Super Bowl last year, yeah, 2021, especially the regular season, is going to be great. I think he will be the second best quarterback this year. I think he will be the MVP favorite heading into the 2021 season. I think he will win the MVP. So here's a guy, and we'll stick with quarterbacks I think are perfectly placed right now. Tom Brady at 2, Baker Mayfield at 10. This is, I feel, could be a little controversial, and I was to gauge the reaction. I believe fans would think this is overhyping Baker Mayfield, thinking he's ranked too high, he's not a top 10 quarterback. He will be a top 10 quarterback this year. Again, this is heading into the season. What you think they will be, not what they have been, what you think they will be. Baker Mayfield will be a top 10 quarterback in 2021. I love the way he progressed as the season went on. Up and down, really, the first half of the year. The final 8 games, including the 2 playoff games, so 6 regular season games, 2 playoff games. Baker Mayfield finished the season throwing 15 touchdown passes, just 2 interceptions. That's it. 15-2 touchdown interception ratio the last 8 games of the year. And what's going for Baker, which is what I love, and believing in him this year, is that for the first time in his NFL career, he will have the same head coach, the same offensive system in place from one year to the next. He knows the terminology. He knows the play calls. He knows the system. He knows what is expected of him. He knows the head coach. Baker Mayfield will actually have, for the first time, and this is going into year number 4 of his career, continuity with the offensive system. So I think that's going to benefit him tremendously. He finished the year strong, and now that he has a full off season to dive into the offense, see what he does well, see what he doesn't do well, where he's not learning the offense, he's not worrying about the new terminology and the play calls and worrying and learning about a new scheme. Everything is the same for Baker Mayfield from year 1 to year 2. Similarly, how I think that's going to benefit Tom Brady in Tampa Bay going from year 1 to year 2, I think that is going to benefit Baker Mayfield tremendously. So even though he's on the same team, the coaching staff, the offense has had so much turnover the first 3 years of his career, he will finally feel comfortable. And I think that's going to be tremendous for him. Not to mention, we look at the offense and look at what Kevin Stefanski tries to accomplish here. The offense itself takes a lot of pressure off Baker Mayfield. It's a run-oriented, run-first offense with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt taking on a load of responsibility. So now when you're not asking Baker Mayfield to throw the ball 40, 45, 50 times a game in order to win you the game, that takes so much pressure off Baker's shoulders where he will be comfortable, he will be confident. And as we know, when Baker Mayfield is confident and feeling himself, that is when he's his most dangerous. Big year comes for Baker Mayfield. So let's do your thoughts. Facebook, again, get in here, Ryan Hickey Show, on Twitter at WWSRN_radio as well. Tweet us your thoughts or comment on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. Which quarterbacks of the top 10 are ranked too high, too low, or just right? Again, the top 10, in case you missed it. Patrick Mahomes 1, Tom Brady 2, Aaron Rodgers 3, Russell Wilson 4, Deshaun Watson 5, Josh Allen 6, Dak Prescott 7, Lamar Jackson 8, Matt Ryan 9, Baker Mayfield 10. The 2 quarterbacks I think are perfectly placed on this list so far. Tom Brady at 2, Baker Mayfield at 10. So get it, do you agree, disagree? Again, Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter, WWSRN_radio on Twitter as well, at Worldwide Sports Network on Facebook if you want to get involved on the show and give your thoughts. One quarterback in the top 10 I think is overrated. That is ranked too high. That I don't think will finish ranked in the top 10 when the season is said and done. That is Matt Ryan at number 9 with the Falcons. I just don't think he has enough left in the tank to still remain a top 10 quarterback in this league. Now, look, he's getting a new head coach and offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. As we know, he's going to try to prioritize the play-action game. That worked really well with Ryan Tannehill. Right? When you see what Ryan Tannehill was before he came to Tennessee, before he got to work with Arthur Smith and instead was working with Adam Gase, the QB whisperer himself, Ryan Tannehill was not a good quarterback. He was not even an average quarterback. He goes to Tennessee and helped get them to the playoffs 2 years in a row. So you look at how Arthur Smith was able to take an average quarterback and Ryan Tannehill make him better. You think Matt Ryan, who's been above average his entire career, MVP of the league, like in 2016, he could remake him and still, really get some juice left out of Matt Ryan's arm. But here's where I'm concerned. Because as you remember in Tennessee, right, what were they predicated on? What were they trying to do first and had success with? Running the ball. They were a run-first offense. Derrick Henry was the catalyst for that offense, not Ryan Tannehill. Once Derrick Henry got rolling is when Ryan Tannehill would be his most effective, not vice versa. So Arthur Smith is a run-first kind of guy offensively, then have his quarterbacks work off play action after that. Well, here's the thing, though, with Arthur Smith going to Atlanta that has me concerned. Last year, in terms of yards per carry, right? How many yards did you average per carry? The Titans were second in all the NFL. Second. 5.2 yards per carry the Titans averaged last year. Well, the Falcons, conversely, were the second worst in terms of yards per carry, just 3.7. So you're going now from Arthur Smith, a team that had the second highest yards per carry average in 2020 with the Titans, going to the second worst team in terms of yards per carry with the Falcons. This team, I don't think, is going to be able to run the ball as effectively as they did in Tennessee, which means that now you're going to still have to put more on Matt Ryan's shoulders because the run game isn't still much of a threat. So I understand the Falcons offensively. They still have Calvin Ridley. They drafted Kyle Pitts. I would assume it looks like they're not going to have Julio Jones. They're going to be forced to trade him. So if you go under the assumption right now that they don't have Julio Jones, sure, they have some weapons. They have some shiny pieces on offense. I just don't think Matt Ryan has enough left in the tank to will himself, to will the Falcons to be a top 10 caliber quarterback. I don't think he has enough left in the tank personally. I think this is starting to become a Eli Manning situation with the Giants. Remember that? Where the Giants held on too long. They thought there was a little more juice left there to squeeze from Eli's career, and when in fact that wasn't the case. Now, Matt, I think, is still better at this point in career than Eli was when they made that decision to keep on rolling with him. But with that said, I don't think Matt Ryan has what it takes to be a top 10 quarterback. So I think he is the one on this list at number 9 that is overrated, overranked, will not be in the top 10. Now, one quarterback finally, and again, if you want to get in who's ranked too high, who's ranked too low, at Ryan Hickey Show on Twitter, you can tweet us there at WWSRN_radio. You can either tweet us or right on the live stream that's on Twitter. Facebook, we got the live stream going on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. One quarterback outside the top 10 that I think should be in the top 10 when all is said and done, both heading into the year and when this is all, when the year is complete. Matthew Stafford. He is just on the edge. He is ranked 11th. But I think he is going to thrive with Sean McVay in LA. Let's look, right? Because we just talked about Matt Ryan and the Falcons and the lack of run game that they have compared to what Arthur Smith had in Tennessee. It is the opposite. It is the converse of Matthew Stafford going to LA. When he was in Detroit, the Lions, had no running game, no threat of a running game, didn't even try to run the ball. Last year, the Lions attempted the 3rd fewest rushing attempts in all of the NFL. It was Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford. You throw the ball, you throw us a victory. If not, we're going to lose. We're not even going to try to run the ball. We signed Adrian Peterson, who is 100 years old. He was our number 1 running back. That's how bad the run game in Detroit was. They didn't even try. They didn't even care. Here's a token handoff, Adrian Peterson, just to keep the defense honest. We don't throw the ball 20 times in a row. So Matthew Stafford is going from a Detroit Lions team that ran the ball the 3rd fewest amount of times in 2020 to where he's going to a Rams team that last year was 7th in rushing attempts. When you look at the difference, the amount of times the Rams ran the ball compared to the Lions, the Rams ran the ball last year 106 more times than the Lions. 106. 106 less throws from Matthew Stafford. 106 less times he's exposed to the rush. He's exposed to getting hit. And guess what? The offensive line that's protecting him in LA is worlds better, light years better than what he had in Detroit. So I understand Matthew Stafford has injury concerns. He's been banged up throughout his entire career. He, for the first time, is going to an offense that actually knows what they're doing. This is the best offense he's had in his entire career. I'm a Matthew Stafford believer. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. I wanted him desperately on the Colts before they missed out on the Rams traded for him. That was a guy I targeted big time. But now you're going to put Matthew Stafford with the best offense he's ever been around, with a team that runs the ball first, and now you're asking him to do less. I'm telling you, if you're not believing in the Rams now, get on board. It's not too late. It's still May 24th. You could still jump on the bandwagon now. Plenty of time. Matthew Stafford not only will be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this year, the Rams are going to be the 2nd best team in the NFC behind only the Bucs. And I think they legitimately can push them. That defense is elite, and now you have a quarterback that actually can execute Sean McVay's offense and take it to the next level. You're not spoon feeding, I should say, Jared Goff the offense like you were. You now are letting Matthew Stafford take what McVay's given him, take it to the next level. So when it comes to top 10 quarterbacks that I think are overrated and underrated, as I have pollen falling all over me here, trying to push through that. Matthew Stafford at 11 to me, way, way, way underrated. Matt Ryan at number 9 I think is overrated. And the 2 quarterbacks I personally think from PFF's list that are perfectly ranked, Tom Brady at number 2, MVP right now, favorite for me, and Baker Mayfield at number 10. He's going to be great this year. So love to hear your thoughts. Again, PFF put out their top 10 list of quarterbacks heading into the 2021 season. We always love debating quarterbacks, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Their list again. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Tom Brady, 2. Rodgers, 3. Russell Wilson, 4. Deshaun Watson, 5. Josh Allen, 6. Dak Prescott, 7. Lamar, 8. Matt Ryan, 9. Baker Mayfield, 10. Who is ranked too high? Who is ranked too low? Who is not getting the respect they deserve? Which quarterback is overrated? Is there a quarterback not in the top 10 that you believe should be in the top 10? For me, that is Matthew Stafford. I would love to hear your thoughts on what PFF's list put out of quarterbacks heading into the 2021 season. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Love to hear your thoughts. You can get them on Facebook right there. Copy or comment on the live stream, I should say. Worldwide Sports on Eric. Tweet us directly at WWSRN_radio. Tweet me directly at Ryan Hickey Show. Go to both of those handles. They both have the live stream on Twitter. If you want to comment on the Twitter live stream, you can do that as well. Love to hear your thoughts. Which quarterbacks are overrated? Which quarterbacks are underrated? We'll get to that and get your thoughts when we return. And also, as we head to hour number 2, we'll play a little game. We always love to overreact. We always do. I'm guilty of it myself. I watch sports. I am passionate about sports. I'm emotional about sports. So with that said, sometimes that emotion, that passion leads us to get too crazy, good or bad, and it leads us to overreact. Now that the first weekend of the NBA playoffs are in the books, now that every team has played one game, which overreactions do we have? Which teams that lost should we say, oh, we're worried about? Or which is a warranted reaction? Which performances say, you know what? This is not just a one-game thing. This truly does either concern me or encourage me. We'll get to those overreactions or warranted reactions when the Ryan Hickey Show returns right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the-right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, coming to you live, as we always are, from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios. With its great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners, all three, check out Big Italy Pizzeria in person in Bayshore, or person in Medford, Joe's Pizzeria in Bayshore, classic New York pizza joint, also in Bayshore or online at BigItalyPizza.com. We'll have Dan Favale, Bleacher Report, very talented NBA reporter, will join us in 15 minutes from now. Which team should we be concerned about? Lakers. Are they in worse shape than I thought, than most of us thought? How about the Jazz? They dropped game 1 to the Grizzlies. Are they in trouble? We'll get Dan's thoughts here and more on the opening weekend of the NBA playoffs in 15 minutes or so. But let's play a little game. Let's have a little fun. Because one thing we love to do, I am guilty of it, I love it. I love to overreact to things. Take one game and really parse it out, extrapolate it out for an entire series. What we saw Saturday, what we saw Sunday is what's going to happen this entire time. So let's get into a few overreactions, or are we getting too crazy, or are these reactions warranted? Is it truly now? Should we truly be concerned with what we saw? So let's start with a team that I think people love to overreact to in the Los Angeles Clippers. They lose game 1 to the Mavericks. I think this is an overreaction for those riding off the Clippers already, getting concerned about their performance. I actually think this loss is a good thing for the Clippers, because what do we know about them, right? They are very laissez-faire. They are very relaxed. Sometimes you really got to kick them in the rear end to get them going here, right? Kawhi, very cerebral, very calm, not much of an emotional leader, not much of a vocal leader. Paul George, same thing, Mr. Cool, if you will. Sometimes the urgency isn't there. This loss right away, game 1, I think is that kick in the rear end the Clippers really do need. Because I'll be honest, I've been kind of saying this. I've been buying into the Clippers all year. They played a lot better. And again, it's not talent that would be the reason why they don't win a title. It's because of chemistry, lack of continuity. I don't think, and again, this is fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I would be shocked, I truly would, if how they lost in the bubble, if how things went with the lack of continuity, the lack of chemistry, the lack of belief and trust that team had. I would be shocked if that happened again this year. So I believe, and I think this is, again, that loss is a good thing, and they will kick into gear and rebound nicely, even though they lost game 1 to the Mavericks. Now, Paul George, as we know, at least on the court performance-wise, is the biggest question mark. After a slow first half, I was encouraged. He shot 7 for 11, scored 16 points in the second half. He was able to bounce back at least and not get his own head. As we know, Playoff P really does anything but live up to that name. But when you look at the betting odds, when you look at how Vegas views the Clippers, they view them very similarly to how I do. Right now, the Clippers are a 6-point favorite for Game 2, according to BetMGM. They believe, BetMGM is believing in a big bounce back from the Clippers, and so am I. I think they will rebound and they will win this series. Overreaction to those worried, those panicking about the Clippers, to those riding them off. How about the Bucks? They had a nice win, a close win over the Heat in overtime. Are you concerned or impressed? So we'll say the statement is you're impressed, the Bucks impressed with their overtime win. This to me is a warranted reaction. Because look, I understand you can go two ways here. You can either be super concerned with how Giannis played, or you can be super impressed with, hey, the Bucks still won despite Giannis playing the way he did. And that's how I'm going to view it. Because as we know, Giannis really struggled in Game 1 against the Heat. Shot just 10 of 27 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. And the biggest concern, the biggest detriment, the biggest bugaboo, the biggest boo-boo, if you will, of Giannis' game on Saturday was his free throw shooting. Just 6 of 13. He missed more free throws than he made, and a lot of those were in crunch time. Last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, Giannis missed 5 free throws. Not only did he miss 5 free throws at the line with a chance to ice the game for the Bucks and kept the Heat in it. Then, up by 2, was it 9 seconds left? Heat had the ball. He allowed Jimmy Butler to blow by him. One of the best defensive players in the NBA. Giannis allows Butler to blow right by him and tie up the game. So when you look at last year in the bubble, when they played the Heat, the Bucks were 1-3 when Giannis was held under his season average for scoring. They didn't win many games. And guess what? Giannis was held under his season average for scoring yesterday. And still, they got the win. Credit to Chris Middleton, who stepped up big time, made a bunch of clutch shots, 27 points for him. Drew Holiday pitched nicely in his first playoff game with Milwaukee, 20 points. How about Brook Lopez? Stepping up, 18 points. This is the help from the bench and the secondary scorers that we did not see last year. So that's why I'm encouraged, not concerned that the Bucks won Game 1 in overtime the way they did. Giannis did not play well. He played subpar. I personally would be shocked if that continues. And then I am impressed with the bench and, again, the secondary scorers picking up Giannis in a way they weren't able to do in the bubble last year. So despite even having Giannis getting blown by, despite the fact he's missing free throws left and right down in crunch time, the Bucks stayed mentally strong, and to me, that's what it's about. As we know, the Heat are dogs, right? Jimmy Butler leads that team. They have the Heat culture we always hear about. Those guys don't get intimidated. They don't mentally crack. But the Bucks didn't either, and I'm impressed by them. To me, it's a warranted reaction to be impressed with their Game 1 overtime victory over the Heat. How about the Los Angeles Lakers? Let's overreact. Twitter was very rational yesterday if they lost. But if the Lakers in trouble, to me, that is an overreaction. As we know, the Lakers are going to go as far as LeBron and AD take them. And boy, that is not very far if Anthony Davis continues to put up games like he did yesterday. 5 of 16 shooting, just 13 points. And when you take into account yesterday's game in Game 1 against the Suns, when you take into account the play-in game going back to Wednesday against the Warriors, those two games, Anthony Davis on the field is shooting 15 for 40. 15 for 40. Despite that, somehow the Lakers are 1-1. And even yesterday, you had LeBron only take 13 shots. He was the leading scorer with 18 points. This is, as we know, the Lakers are going to have to work their way to get back in sync, work their way into playing shape, work their way into getting used to each other and getting that continuity and familiarity back on the court. That's only going to happen with more playing time. So I'll be honest here. Game 1 was very surprising. I honestly thought the Lakers would out-muscle the Suns, use their physicality to their advantage to where DeAndre Ayton wouldn't be able to match it, Dario Saric wouldn't be able to slow down AD. And I truly thought just the physicality alone from that perspective, and you're taking also into account the playoff experience that the Lakers have that the Suns don't, really, outside of Chris Paul. I truly thought that would work in LA's favor, and they would get Game 1. But I am not concerned. I still think the Lakers are going to win this series. I really do. But obviously, as we know, they're going to need Anthony Davis to bounce back immensely. And I do think he will. I really do think he will. And the Lakers are going to need him too. But I think it's an overreaction to say the Lakers are done. I do think a big bounce back is coming here, and they will get back on their way very soon. I think they're still winning this series. And finally, before we go to Dan Favale, a very warranted reaction to this comment. Knicks-Hawks is going to be the most exciting series of the first round. I mean, just last night, I think that's very warranted because that is totally going to be the case. And how great was Game 1? Honestly. Now, I do, anytime I talk about my teams here on the show, I do try to look at it from a neutral point of view. I really don't try to look at it from Knicks-colored glasses or Mets-colored glasses or Colts-colored glasses. I try to shoot it straight with you. I really try to look at it, and I try to put my emotion aside here and try to give it to you the best way I can, to where if I was a neutral observer, I would be thinking the same thing. Yesterday, though, I think unbiasedly was the most exciting game to watch, in part because of the game, right? You had the Hawks with Trae Young win on a shot with 0.9 seconds left in the fourth quarter. A game that was back and forth, ping-ponging leads of 4 for the Knicks and 5 for the Hawks. Neither team got a big advantage out all in the game. But the crowd at the Garden was totally electric. And again, unbiased, I think it's fair to say a lot of people would agree with this. Best crowd of Game 1 by far. Best crowd. Loudest, most electric. Thought the roof was going to pop off a few times. And that's what made the game that much more exciting. And it was already a fun and exciting game. So you have fresh blood, which also helps too. Right? Like, kind of seeing something new, I think, helps kind of with that draw to draw people in and make it more exciting. Having the Hawks-Knicks first game go that way, I thought was very exciting. For a series that's going to be very close, I think it's going to go 7. I think the Knicks are going to win. But it's one of those series I think will truly go the distance. MSG Game 7 is going to be raucous. And you have great players play great in big moments. Trae Young, 32 points. He had that tremendous floater again with just 0.9 seconds remaining to give the Hawks the eventual go-ahead lead, which they held on to and won. I think Hawks-Knicks is going to be the most exciting series of the first round. Mavs Clippers, I think, was great. Jazz Grizzlies is going to be a fun one. Bucks Heat, I think, is going to be a dogfight. That's going to be a fun, intense series. You're going to really get the passion from both sides. Lakers Suns could be a lot of fun as well. Suns team not backing down, going after it. And, of course, we have LeBron and AD there. But I do think from a viewing experience, from just watching two teams go at it with the credible reaction that they have, I think, to me, honestly, Hawks Knicks is going to be the greatest and most exciting series of the first round. So, after your thoughts, warranted reaction, overreaction. Knicks Hawks being the best series. Are the Lakers in trouble? Bucks win in overtime. Are you impressed? And the Clippers lose game 1 to the Mavericks. Are you overreacting? Are the Clippers done? Or do you have faith that they'll bounce back? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And is there one I missed? Is there an overreaction that you have or a warranted reaction that you have from any of the first round action? Are the Jazz in trouble? How about the Suns? Do you think the Suns can win the series? Love to hear your thoughts. Again, Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio. At Ryan Hickey Show is where you can find the show, and tweet us as well on Twitter. When we come back, though, we will discuss it and ask some of these questions. Which are overreactions? Which teams should be concerned after Game 1? How they win? Are the Lakers truly in trouble? How about the Nets? They had an impressive Game 1 victory. They have the leadership. Forget the talent. Do they have the leadership to win a title? We'll discuss that all with Dan Favale from Bleacher Report. He will join us next on the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no two investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk-averse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value and market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC. Annuity and insurance products offered through AXA Network LLC.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor, and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next-door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council. Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole, or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your flat. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hey, welcome back in to the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here, going until 11 a.m. Eastern on this Monday morning. We appreciate you starting your week with us. And what a weekend it was in the sports world. Phil Mickelson wins the PGA Championship. And boy, do we have a ton of great basketball from the NBA playoffs. Now to join us to break it all down from the opening weekend, now that every team has had one game in the books, it is the great Bleacher Report NBA reporter. His name is Dan Favale, also co-host of the Hardwood Knocks podcast. Find Dan's work at Dan Favale on Twitter. Dan, appreciate the few minutes. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
We're doing great. We're doing great, man. These games were awesome over the weekend. A lot of close battles here. Let's start with an unpredicted game that I kind of did not see going this way. And that was the Lakers losing Game 1 to the Suns. I thought even despite the injuries, even despite the lack of continuity the Lakers had, I thought their physicality, I thought their playoff experience would come through, especially in Game 1 and have them get the win. But as we saw, the Suns looked great. They played really well. Was this just a bad game for the Lakers, or is there a legitimate game plan here where you think the Suns could come out of this series victorious?
Yeah, the Suns are actually my pick to win this in 7. I think because the Lakers don't seem fully healthy when you're looking at LeBron's ankle and then Anthony Davis in general. Seemed like he was playing better towards the end of the regular season, but he's been up and down this year, and we saw it again in Game 1. He was outplayed roundly by DeAndre Ayton. The Suns have the talent to win this series, and I think people are starting to understand how good Devin Booker is and how good the supporting cast can be. The CP3 shoulder injury, though, that does change the calculus a little bit. If both LeBron and AD are going to be able to be healthy, he was definitely favoring that right shoulder, brought the ball up with his left hand. His shot looked weird for the rest of the game after that injury. I think this is just going to end up being a tightly contested series. Both these teams are banged up, and they're both really good. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that the Suns won, but the fact that they won after CP3 was injured and just wasn't necessarily himself after that was certainly impressive.
Well, how much of the injury does that CP3 injury change kind of your thinking here? Because you're right, like he got hurt, he didn't look himself at all. Offensively, wasn't really taking many shots, but still to the Suns' credit, Ayton was playing really well. Booker stepped up even more. Is this sustainable from the Suns playing this well if CP3 is 50% or worse for the rest of the series?
I mean, probably not. They would need him to have, you would think, at least 1 or 2 games where he goes off offensively, and he still dropped 8 assists in Game 1, but wasn't much of a scorer, and they do need him when you get down to crunch time, and if things bog down, you want that other option aside from Devin Booker. And the other thing that just might be unsustainable for them is DeAndre Ayton typically comes and goes. He had a great Game 1, but those games are sometimes followed by passive games, and so they absolutely do need him to be closer to CP3, regular CP3, than not if they want to pull out this thing over the course of 7 games versus LA.
We're talking to Dan Favale, Bleacher Report, NBA writer and reporter. I'm curious, Dan, I'm in the school of thinking when it comes to the Lakers specifically, that the best chance if you want to knock them out of the playoffs is round 1. Kind of get them now while they're still hurt, while they're still trying to get the continuity back in the offense. Do you see the Lakers as a team the most vulnerable right now to where if they get past the Suns, it's going to be tough for the Nuggets, the Blazers, the Jazz, the Clippers to knock them out? Or is this a team you view as still vulnerable? And, hey, maybe the longer the playoffs go, LeBron's not going to get any healthier and they still are vulnerable. in rounds 2 and 3. Is this where do you see the Lakers at? If they get past the Suns in Series 1, are they a team that's going to be hard to get out or still vulnerable throughout the rest of the playoffs?
I would agree with you where I would rather face them earlier. Maybe not in most seasons, but this season specifically when they haven't had the same chemistry. LeBron and AD missing so much time. Dennis Schroeder missed a bunch of time. He's only 4 games into his return from COVID at the moment. And so they're still trying to figure things out. And it would just make sense to have to go up against them while they're not as fresh. And as time goes on now, yeah, maybe LeBron's ankle doesn't get better, but he should still probably just get better on the floor, getting more used to playing on it. Dennis Schroeder should get better. Anthony Davis should get better. The offense should have more flow just because they're spending more time together. So if you have to face them, if you have to go through them, I do think it was better this season in particular to have to go up against them in round 1.
I'd agree with you, and that's kind of the reason why I'm scratching my head when you look at the Nuggets tanking to try to avoid them. The Clippers also doing the same. They try to avoid them when both, especially the Nuggets, had a chance to play them in the first round if they wanted to. So speaking of the Clippers themselves, they lose, obviously, Game 1 to the Mavericks at home on Saturday. Is there concern level for you that, hey, this is maybe a harbinger of things to come, or just one loss maybe it almost is a good thing for them that kind of wakes them up, gives them that kick in the rear that they need, and they'll be better for it moving forward?
I think it's fair to be concerned just based off what we sort of saw last season when they collapsed with that 3-1 lead. And this is a team that they're so talented on paper, but just when you think that they've turned a corner, they revert to just beating themselves. And that's not take anything away from what Dallas was able to do in Game 1. Luka Doncic was fantastic. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jalen Brunson gave them a lift later on. But Kawhi has an uneven game. Paul George has his moments, but has another uneven playoff game. And if those two aren't at their peak, you do need the other guys to hit their shots. And you are so reliant on making threes, making jumpers, because you're not a team that attacks the rim a ton when Zubac isn't on the floor. And yet you have a Marcus Morris going 0 for 6 from 3 during that game. You have Reggie Jackson missing all 3 of his looks from there. I would argue that's not an offensive performance we get from the Clippers again. At the same time, they are just such a roller coaster dating back to last year that I think it's fair to wonder whether they are going to win this series. It shouldn't be one where they get beat in 5 games, but I picked them in 5 games to start the series because I thought they'd turn a corner, and I think it's clear that this one's going to last far longer than that because that element of inconsistency from them remains.
So it would be fair to say, are you a believer in the Clippers? Like for me, I don't feel now with you. I don't feel great about picking them to represent the West to the finals, but the talent is there, and maybe it's a fool me twice, shame on me situation. But I just don't think the lack of chemistry could come back to hurt them again. How are you feeling confidence wise that this Clippers team could advance far in the playoffs?
Feeling a lot less confident after Game 1. Got to be honest with you.
Fair, very fair.
There does seem to be better chemistry on the team, and we saw moments, and definitely throughout the regular season as well, where the ball is moving a little bit better. I think Rondo has helped them in some a lot more than many, including myself, expected. But they're just all over the place. There's no other way to describe it. And they are sort of dealing with trying to integrate guys back who missed a ton of time. Serge Ibaka is still sort of fresh off that back injury that made him miss a ton of time. So they're going to probably have to make some interesting decisions down the stretch of games. And then even at the center position for this series specifically, when Kristaps Porzingis isn't playing well, they really don't have, when you look at Ibaka or Zubac, someone who matches up with him all that well to begin with. So there could be some intriguing or problematic late game situations for them. I still expect them to win the series, but this does not look like a team where if they were your championship pick or if they were your pick to come out of the West, that's not one I'd be feeling extremely confident about at the moment.
I would agree with you there. We're talking to Dan Favale, Bleacher Report NBA writer. Find Dan's work at Dan Favale on Twitter, also co-host of the Hardwood Knocks podcast. So, Dan, how much do you value or how little do you value playoff experience for teams that have a ton of it coming into the postseason?
I do think it's important. You could look at the Suns as a good example where Jay Crowder, Paul, and then Torrey Craig to some extent are the only players with extensive postseason experience. I don't think you need to have a roster full of those guys. Having a North Star like CP3 or 2 guys that you know are vocal in CP3 and Jay Crowder who can talk to other players about the playoff experience. I think that goes a long way. You look at the Atlanta Hawks, where that core, they really haven't been to the playoffs before, but you have Clint Capella and Lou Williams who have. And so I think it's important to have those one or two guys that can be vocal leaders during times like these, because the games are different. Things will bog down. The pace can slow during certain situations. And I think there's value there. But I do overall think we tend to overrate needing to see a certain star in the playoffs beforehand to believe that he can, live up to the moment. Trae Young and Devin Booker having fantastic playoff debuts are a good example. Even John Morant and Dylan Brooks in Memphis as well.
So it sounds like you're not surprised, because I'm like, I guess I'm in the school of thought where, hey, playoff experience, especially early on, especially in game ones when teams don't know kind of what to expect, would favor teams like the Lakers, like the Jazz, even though, if they're banged up in the case of the Jazz or still trying to work back from injury like the Lakers. But to your point, the Suns, the Hawks, the Grizzlies especially impressed with game one. Is that a surprise to you, I guess, that they were able to have so much success in game one, despite the fact that most of them have never really been in playoff basketball before?
Yeah, that was, the fact that they built such a big lead, even though the Jazz didn't have Donovan Mitchell in that one, that definitely was surprising there. And Dylan Brooks is someone who, as good as he is, he can shoot you out of games, but he shot them into a game last night, he and John Morant. And when things got close, they were able to pull it out too, which is also sort of a gut check moment for them. And that roster is deep. They will punch you in the mouth on defense, and they have two guards in John Morant and Dylan Brooks who are going to go at you on offense as well. So that's not, again, a team that you would expect to upset the Jazz, but they are a team that it seems like you're going to feel the fact that you had played them. Still, I would say overall, just as you sort of mentioned, that being that game one, being the away team, going up against a Jazz team that's still wildly deep even without Donovan Mitchell, they were able to sort of pester Utah on defense the way they did, held them to 4 of 21 shooting from beyond the arc in the first half. Definitely impressive and also definitely surprising.
Yeah, the Mavericks win game one over the Clippers. Blazers take down the Nuggets. Hawks take down the Knicks, so that's a little bit closer series. Grizzlies take down the Jazz in game one. Which of those teams, the higher seeds that lose game one, are most trouble series-wise of losing a series out of those four?
Probably the Knicks, just because, Atlanta and New York have the identical records. And just based off what happened in game one, I'm curious to see how the Knicks are going to defend Trae Young. They did nothing really to dissuade the Hawks from setting those double drag screens at the top, and they didn't do anything to stop Trae Young from going right. And he was able to carve them up with floaters, with lob assists, with kicks to the corner and to three-point shooters in general. And they tried to put Frank Ntilikina on him during the final possession when he hadn't played all second half and only 23 seconds the entire game. It didn't really make much sense there, and they're going to need to change the way that they defend the Hawks right now if they want to have a better shot in this series. And then offensively, you need more from Julius Randle than I think he was 6 of 23 or whatever it was game one. He probably will be better, but if he's not going to hit his shots, they are going to need him to make better decisions, because he forced a lot of things, which took away some other opportunities on possessions. And another thing to watch would be that Nerlens Noel injury towards the end of game one. There's been a prognosis on that yet. And so if he misses time and you're already without Mitchell Robinson, the front court rotation is going to get pretty dicey.
At Dan Favale on Twitter, you can find all of Dan's great work there. Speaking of, or at least going more to the East now, Dan, you had the Bucks on Saturday, kind of get the playoffs started here with an overtime victory over the Heat. Are you impressed that, hey, despite Giannis' struggles, the Bucks are still able to knock down some shots, still able to persevere and get the win? Or are you in the camp that, hey, Giannis struggled again in the postseason. They can't win if he's not going to be their best player on a nightly basis. Are you more concerned or impressed with the Bucks after their overtime victory over the Heat on Saturday?
I think you have to be impressed to see Giannis was 10 of 24 on twos, 6 of 13 at the foul line. He and Drew Holiday combined for more turnovers than assists. The Bucks themselves shot under 17% as a team from three-point range, and yet you were still able to beat the Heat. I know they got subpar games from Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, but you just look at how Milwaukee was able to defend overall, and then just also what they were able to do on offense, even though Giannis was struggling. Drew Holiday wasn't even that great, but they were able to post up and really open the floor up for everybody else when he was backing down some of the Heat's other guards. Chris Middleton was absolutely huge for them. I think it proved the variance in how they can play, and that's what everyone's been asking for the past two postseasons specifically when they've flamed out earlier than expected. They want to see the Bucks be able to play these different styles. And we saw some Giannis as the screener being used as the decoy a little bit, just having him off the ball in general, so he's not trying to force the action in the half court. Drew Holiday saw a lot of touches down the stretch, and again, even though it wasn't his most efficient night, he puts pressure on defenses in ways that neither Eric Bledsoe or even Giannis does. So he's that monster upgrade over Bledsoe, and then to have another shot maker like Chris Middleton, even Bryn Forbes helped a little bit for them. They are uniquely built, I think, to navigate bad games from Giannis more so than they've ever been.
I'm totally with you there, Dan. Like I said, last year when we saw, especially when Miami would build that wall in the second round, Giannis couldn't penetrate. It was curtains for the Bucks. So I'm with you being impressed with the Bucks, still being able to get that win, persevere through. And even though Giannis gets blown by there by Jimmy Butler to tie the game, still were able to make some shots in overtime to pull it out. So with that said, Bucks being different this year than in previous years, where would you rank them in terms of the East contenders with the Sixers and the Nets? Are they the team in your mind that could get through, or are they more either second or third in your mind out of those big three teams in the East?
Yeah, so right now I have the Sixers coming out of the East. I think they're just the most dominant team at both ends of the floor when Joel Embiid is healthy. And I would have Milwaukee number 2 because I think they have the length and bodies to disrupt what Brooklyn is doing in the second round, which is going to be their probable opponent. I don't think that's easy necessarily, but between Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton, you do at least have 3 guys that can match up with the big three. And then what they're able to do on offense now, even when Giannis is struggling, I think that gives them even more so a leg up. I would be more worried about them in a potential matchup with Brooklyn than Philly at this point. I think Philly has just more defenders to throw at Brooklyn, and it also helps Philly's case that they get to avoid Brooklyn until the Eastern Conference Finals, if that's the route that they go. Still, I do have the Bucks just as number 2 because I think they do a lot more things defensively, and that's just something the Nets are eventually going to struggle with. They ended up being okay in Game 1 against the Celtics, but their defense is going to be a sore spot at some point in the postseason.
We're talking to Dan Favale and finishing up here with the Bleacher Report NBA writer. It's funny, Dan, because I'm 100% with you. The order you have of Sixers, Bucks, Nets is exactly the order I have as well. And I feel like both of us are on an island. Every time you hear anyone talking about who's going to come out of the East, it's always the Nets 1, Nets 1, Nets 1. Forget Nets number 2, both have them at number 3. For me, it's the leadership, really lack thereof. Obviously, we know they have scoring and plenty, and we just saw in the second half, they could turn it on in the blink of an eye against the Celtics, and they did that, just completely erasing a poor shooting first half. But for me, I'm concerned about the lack of leadership, and when adversity faces in the playoffs like it always does, I don't think they have the makeup to kind of push through and pull through the other side. For you, what is it with the Nets that you have them ranked 3rd out of the big 3 teams in the East in terms of getting to the finals?
I think the lack of familiarity between James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving on the court, having only played in 9 games total so far this season, is something that could, I don't think, but we did see it a little bit in Game 1 versus Boston. It's more them taking turns rather than playing off one another or with each other. And so there could be matchups where that gets them into issues. And then sort of as I alluded to before, the defense. How are they going to run front court rotations? It looks like they're going to lean on Jeff Green and Kevin Durant to close games, but there might be matchups where Nicholas Claxton makes more sense, where he got in foul trouble early in Game 1, and it didn't seem like they trusted to really bring him back after that. If they're going to try and steal minutes with Blake Griffin at the 5, that's something that could potentially burn them as well. And so between those questions about their defense overall, how they're going to run their front court rotation, and then just still that lack of on-court familiarity between their big 3, I do think they're more vulnerable, at least, than people are really expecting them to be right now.
So then finally, Dan, would you predict them going down to the Bucks in round 2, or you think that they could push through and Philly would get them more in round 3? That's a worse matchup for them.
That's a really good question. If the series were starting between the 2 teams tomorrow, I think I'd have Bucks in 7 in that matchup, and that's probably one where the perception could change if the Nets start playing a little bit more cohesive on offense. It sounds like a terrible word just because they're so good in isolation, but if it looks like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden are sort of more in tune with one another, and the Nets improve defensively as the series with the Celtics goes on, they're absolutely capable of beating the Bucks. They can beat anybody, but I would still roll with Milwaukee at the moment.
At Dan Favale on Twitter, Bleacher Report NBA writer, reporter, also co-host of the Hardwood Knocks podcast. Dan, I really appreciate the time, really appreciate the insight. The first weekend of the NBA playoffs was awesome. Enjoy the action. It's going to be a fun next 2 months here.
Oh, yes, you too. Enjoy the action. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate Dan's time. How about that? Sixers, Bucks, Nets. Myself and Dan Favale on the same page there. Not many people believing in it. Really, no one else. Honestly, trust me, I have looked for plenty of different opinions. I've read a ton of articles, listened to a ton of audio. No one has the Nets second, let alone third. Everyone's predicting the Nets out of East. That's interesting. We will react to what Dan said. And also, should there be concern about the Lakers? Dan predicting the Suns even before the series started in 7. We will discuss some reactions to the first round of the NBA playoffs when the Ryan Hickey Show finishes up right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back in to the Ryan Hickey Show with you until 11 a.m. Eastern on this Monday morning. We will be back on Thursday morning as well, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. We appreciate listening wherever you are on the digital platform, whether it's Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, YouTube, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, download the app, WWSRN. If you have an iPhone, Worldwide Sports Radio Network for Android. I have done it. It is one of the best things I have done. I love the Worldwide Sports Radio Network app. Anytime my guys go live, ton of great shows we have. Morning, afternoon, night, weekend, weekday. So much content to keep up with that. It's simple. Boom, click of a button. You get an alert anytime someone goes live. You get to watch the show. You get to read the articles. You get to check it all out in the app. WWSRN for iPhone, Worldwide Sports Radio Network for Android. A lot of fun. You won't regret it. I promise you there. It is a great way to keep up with everything going on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We appreciate Dan Favale joining us from Bleacher Report. A lot of good stuff there. A lot of good stuff to react to as the first weekend of the NBA playoffs in the books. And a few things I want to get Dan's thoughts on because I thought it was very fascinating. Number one, I honestly, at this point, have waved the white flag in terms of trying to find someone else to agree with me about the Nets. I'm not actively seeking it out. I understand I'm on an island. I was on an island. Well, I wouldn't say I was on an island to begin with. But when the Nets were thinking about trading for James Harden, I thought it was a big, big mistake, both on-court wise and leadership-wise. Now, on-court, again, it's been a very small sample size, but the 9 games, they have fit in well together. They have played well, and they have kind of meshed and all have somehow, despite the fact that they've barely played together, found kind of their roles early on and have fit in. But my biggest thing with the Nets, especially when it comes to the postseason now, is the lack of leadership. I am legitimately concerned that we are overlooking leadership when it comes to the playoffs. Like I understand they have talent, right? Please, you don't have to tell me they have by far the best team in the NBA talent-wise. They have the 3 best, we'll say 3 of the top 10 scorers, especially this year. Kyrie has been, honestly, I will give Kyrie a lot of credit, way better than I could have imagined from a scoring perspective on the court day in and day out. So obviously they could score with any team, and if they don't want to play defense, they don't have to play defense because they can score up and down the court. But when you look at the big 3s who have had success, the Boston Celtics in 08, when you have KG as the leader, when you go to Miami, and year 1, LeBron was still immature. I think he was still trying to find his voice, still trying to find his role, still trying to fit in, kind of going from fun guy to root for, awesome guy looking to the hometown Cavaliers. Everyone was rooting for LeBron James, to so quickly he turned the villain when he made that decision to go to Miami, did it on the show, cringeworthy, as it was. And I think that first year had to deal with being the villain as quickly as it was. He didn't expect that. I think a lot of things were learned from that loss to the Mavericks back in 2011. But the next 3 years, led the Heat. It was his team, despite him going to Miami where Dwayne Wade was already there and joining up with Chris Bosh. It was LeBron's team. And once that was kind of established, the Heat went to, obviously, as we know, 4 titles in a row, won 2 of them. And even most recently, the biggest big 3 that we saw, Golden State, Steph, Clay, KD, would have won 3 titles if healthy. No offense to the Raptors, but we all know it's true. If KD didn't blow out his Achilles and if Clay didn't tear his ACL, well, it was Game 6 a little bit later on, but still. The reason why they were able to go to 3 straight finals with KD, Steph, and Clay, win 2 of them, was because Steph's leadership. Despite, obviously we know Steph's not a really vocal leader. He's not one of those guys that's a passionate, get in your face, rah-rah kind of guy. But his leadership was so impressive, it's not really looked on a lot. He took a step back. When KD came over, he came to the Warriors, right? 73-win Warriors. NBA record for most postseasons. Blew a 3-1 lead to the Cavs. KD could have came in, and they could have been like, hey, it's our team, you adjust to us. Instead, Steph, Clay, sometimes Draymond, although we know that didn't happen every time, they took a step back. They said, Kevin, it's your team. The offense runs through you. We'll play off of you. Instead of you coming, you got to adjust to us. That's not really talked about a lot. But that's why the Warriors are able to fit in so seamlessly and have so much success right away. And again, they won 2 titles from it. I don't think that leadership is going to be there to where if they fall into a rough patch. Dan predicts the Bucks in 7. I think it's going to be a tremendous series. I'm so excited to watch it. But I would agree with Dan. The Bucks have been through some stuff. As we know, the Bucks went through some stuff, especially last year with the way they were bounced by the Heat. Ton of questions, ton of doubts. And I think that experience, going through that with your brothers, is invaluable. Is really going to be a big difference this year when you're going against a team that's never gone through it tough, that only know good times. That's fair to say so far with KD, Kyrie, and Harden. They've only had good times. They've barely been on the court together. When they have success. They play well together. They don't really know what it's like to go through the peaks and valleys. They don't really know what it's like to lose 4 or 5 games in a row when they're on the court and they're the reasons for the failure. They don't know what it's like. So I think that experience that the Bucks have going through last year, getting embarrassed by the Heat, blowing a 2-0 series lead to the Raptors 2 years ago, having questions and doubts about Giannis. Can he win a title? Is he truly one of those players that can win you a title? Do the Bucks have enough scoring? Chris Middleton, is he truly number 2? Mike Budenholzer, about to get fired if they don't go to the finals? All of those questions to me benefit the Bucks in a way that when the series gets tough, when it's a dogfight here, and we're going to Game 6 and maybe Milwaukee's up 3-2 or even Brooklyn's up 3-2, Milwaukee isn't going to fold in the way I think Brooklyn will. Now for Dan, His reasoning was a little different than mine. It was more for him the defense or lack thereof. Milwaukee really could pester you, and they have some shooters. And Philly's going to be a very tough, grinded-out defensive team. Matisse Thybulle is a great defender on the wing. Obviously, as we know, Ben Simmons, one of the Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Joel Embiid. The Sixers can match up against the Nets in the best way possible. And Brooklyn doesn't have anybody that's going to slow down Joel Embiid in the paint. So whether it's the Bucks getting the job done in round 2, whether it is the Sixers in round 3 and the Eastern Conference Finals getting the job done, I am with Dan. For weeks, I have ordered, in terms of the contenders that could come out of the East, Sixers 1, Bucks 2, Nets 3. Impressed by Dan. I'm honestly shocked that he was in agreement with that exact order because not many people have. We are on an island there for sure. So that's one thing I was very interested in hearing with Dan, was that he is doubting the Nets similar or not like many other people. Everyone is buying in, drinking the Kool-Aid of Brooklyn, not Dan Favale, not Ryan Hickey. So another thing we talked about too, and I'm kind of with him here, when it comes to the Clippers, man, they are infuriating, honestly. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm not a Clippers fan. I'm not a Clippers hater. I'm not really a Lakers hater. I just kind of look at the NBA, for the most part, not many teams I truly hate, not really rooting against many teams. I want to root for the Clippers. I really do. When they were assembled last year, I thought, to me, they were the team to beat, not LeBron and AD. They had the talent. They had the better depth. And when it comes to the playoffs, the way they folded, the way the lack of chemistry finally came back to bite them, to where the rest of the team didn't even trust Kawhi and especially Paul George in the bubble. That was honestly frustrating because they had the talent to get it done. They were way better than the Nuggets. They're talent-wise even better than the Lakers. But they couldn't put it all together. And so you know what? I thought the embarrassment that they went through, the trolling on Twitter, the pandemic pee jokes that were funny, admittedly, but flying along across Twitter on the night that they were eliminated and blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. I thought, you know what? Shame on at least maybe the Clippers for not getting this done and not realizing a weakness earlier. They won't let this happen again. No chance do they allow not the lack of talent, not the lack of shooting, not the lack of scoring, the lack of chemistry, the lack of continuity. No way that in 2 years in a row they will let that happen. And similar this year, kind of up and down. Paul George has played a lot better, but injuries, Kawhi hasn't really played a ton. Paul George hasn't played a ton. Guys are in and out of the lineup. To lose game 1 of the Mavericks, I get it. Listen, not the most encouraging sign, right? If you're a Clippers doubter or a Clippers hater, you run right there on Twitter. You start dragging down Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, all the Clippers fans out there. You start dragging them down. You start hitting the panic button because, man, here we go again. I still am not honestly that concerned. Dan picked the Clippers in 5. He's a believer in it, and he even admitted too. Hey, I'm not feeling the most confident after game 1, and I would agree to a sense, but I'm going to go from the mindset here. I'm going to go for the school of thinking that this loss for the Clippers in game 1 to the Mavericks is a good thing for them. This is something that could actually get them going early on here, get the kick in the pants they need, kind of get a wake-up call early on. As we know, they're very passive. They're very soft-spoken. They're very chill. There's not many in-your-face leaders, fiery guys on that team to get everyone going. Marcus Morris, he's definitely could fall into that category. Rajon Rondo as well. But the main guys, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, not those guys that are going to get in your face, going to get the urgency going here. I think this loss to the Mavericks almost right away, where you can't even ease into the playoffs, it is full speed right now. Hey, our backs are already against the wall. Game 1 of round 1. I do think will benefit the Clippers in the end. I think they will win this opening round series. I think they're just better than the Mavericks overall. Even despite the off game from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they're still down to the wire for the most part. I think defensively they will adjust to Luka because he had himself a day. Kept putting Zubats on him, and as we know, that was a win for the Mavs every time. That will change. And I do believe the Clippers will benefit from this kind of scare, this wake-up call early on, and use it to their benefit. I think they're getting to their Western Conference Finals. I want to pick them to go to the finals. I really do. But similar to Dan, I also agree. I think the Lakers right now, they are the most vulnerable right now. If they get past the Suns, if they get past this opening round loss, if Anthony Davis bounces back and plays a great series like we saw in the bubble play so many times, I think the Lakers will win the series. I think this is a team that's going to build momentum, that's only going to get better as the playoffs continue. As the season continues, I think that will be a benefit, and that will only do the Lakers good. They will get better as time goes on. So by the time that the Clippers, if they do end up facing the Lakers, I want to see how they're playing, but that's going to be an interesting matchup where I do think the Clippers on paper are talented enough to beat them. But it might be too late. It might be too late because this seems like the best time right now to get the Lakers and knock them out. Suns, impressively, and I did not expect this, to be honest. Game 1 or round 1, I thought the Lakers were going to handle the series. I thought physically they were better. Postseason experience was to their advantage. I get LeBron is still trying to work his way back, and AD is still consistently trying to get there. But this is a series I thought really matched up well with the Lakers. And we saw yesterday, Game 1, Phoenix took it to them impressively, even with Chris Paul's injury. Devin Booker was a star, was a stud in Game 1. DeAndre Ayton. Honestly, I did not see DeAndre Ayton dominating the game and making Anthony Davis look like a scrub. I mean, I thought it was going to be roles reversed. I thought Anthony Davis was going to take Ayton to school. He's a guy that I was very nervous about with the Suns. Yeah, I can make the argument. DeAndre Ayton was the main reason why I wasn't believing the Suns to make a deep playoff run. Nothing against him. I actually like DeAndre Ayton a lot. I like the Suns team a lot. I just was nervous that this was now going to be big boy basketball for the first time in DeAndre Ayton's career, and I just didn't think he would respond in a great way. It's a learning experience. I mean, also look at the West. So many talented big men that are just tough to guard on a night-in, night-out basis. You have Rudy Gobert in Utah. Obviously, you have Anthony Davis to deal with. You're going to have Nikola Jokic to go through. Like, the West is tough when it comes to big men. And I just thought DeAndre Ayton, for his lack of play experience, he's still growing. And he's still, I mean, to be fair to him, he grew a lot in year 3 compared to 1 and 2. But this is a guy I think that's going to really have to, still learn, still kind of trying to get into his own and kind of find his footing here. I thought the Lakers could have used that, especially Anthony Davis, to their advantage in Game 1. And instead, Ayton shut me up, shut a lot of critics up, and played really, really well. With that said, I don't expect that matchup to favor the Suns more times than not. I think Anthony Davis, more games than not in this series, will play a lot better than DeAndre Ayton. I think Chris Paul's shoulder injury, if he's not right, if he's not 100%, if he's not effective like he normally is, will hurt the Suns. Well, I do think the Lakers will, in the end, win this series and get through. Maybe it's going to be, well, not maybe, it's going to be a tougher series than I honestly anticipated. So I give the Suns a lot of credit there. But in the end, I do think this is a Lakers team that's going to get past the Suns. I think we're not going to overreact to one game. They will win the series. And to me, they are going to get better with time. We'll see how much better. But this is a team that right now, honestly, if they get past the Suns, I'd have a tough time picking against. Even against the Clippers. I want to see how the Clippers continue to play. And obviously, we'll see how the Lakers continue to play here as they work their way back. But it's going to be a very fun matchup if we do get it. Battle of LA, chance to go to the finals. So the first weekend of the NBA playoffs are in the books. It was a fun weekend. A ton of great games. Not really many blowouts. It was a lot of fun. Ton of exhilarating and fun action. Hope you enjoyed it as well. We appreciate you starting your week with us right here in the great outdoors doing the show. Thank you for bearing with us here as stage number 2 of the floors in our house are getting done here. So we will be back on Thursday. Want to avoid the noise inside. It is. I went inside before. It is noisy. Whew. So at least here we got a little wind to deal with, a little birds chirping, which is a lot better ambiance than, again, here on a standard ground in the floors for 2 hours. So we'll be back in the normal studios on Thursday. Very excited for Thursday's show. More NBA playoffs to react to. We'll get you all set and ready to go as those series elongate. So thank you to Dan Favale, again, the Bleacher Report, for giving us a few minutes here. Thank you to you. Thank you, the listener, for making us a part of your Monday morning here. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Hopefully the week is just as good as we get ready for Memorial Day weekend. Let's go. Summer is here. Let's go. That's great for everyone. So enjoy your week. Stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.